So there's no one correct rhythm for setting goals, and there's no one right way to set them. The bottom line is that you shouldn't be trying to change yourself to work with certain types of goals. Your goals should be designed to work for you. You're listening to the Life Edit Project podcast, where busy, ambitious high achievers get the tools they need to fight perfectionism and overwhelm so they can smash their goals without all the drama. I'm your host, recovering overachiever turned professional life coach, Elizabeth Burrows. Let's get to it. Good day, good people. Welcome back to the Life Edit Project podcast. As always, I'm your host and favorite life coach, Coach Elizabeth, bringing you episode 55 of this show. Yes. I'm excited, as always. I'm always excited, right? But I'm excited specifically because today's episode is a little different than my usual episode because I'm not just blabbing about what I want to talk about and just, throwing my thoughts out there into the podcast realm and hoping y'all are picking up what I'm putting down. No, today I'm actually responding to some questions that I've gotten from my community. Today is an Ask Me Anything episode, and I'm responding to just three questions today from anonymous listeners. Before we get started, here's a quick disclaimer. I am a professional life coach. I've coached hundreds of people, both in one-on-one sessions and in groups. So I have a lot of experience and I know what I'm talking about. My responses to these questions are my personal thoughts informed by my perspective and experience as a coach. But these responses do not constitute a formal coaching relationship. So eat the meat and spit out the bones, take what you like and leave the rest, because at the end of the day, this is just a free podcast, right? Okay, so now that we are all on the same page, let's dive into these questions and get you some answers, shall we? Let's go. The first question that I'm tackling today comes from an anonymous listener who just kept it all the way real. Here's what they asked. What's the difference between coaching and therapy? I have a therapist already. Well, we are just diving right on into the deep end, aren't we? Okay, that's fine. I actually love addressing this, and I will always take the time to answer this question whenever it comes up, in whatever variation that this question comes up, because I think it's important. So I'm going to start off by reminding you that I did an entire podcast episode on this way back in season 1. It's episode 7, and it's called I'm Your Life Coach, Not Your Therapist or One of Your Little Friends. And you should definitely add that episode to your playlist if you haven't listened to it yet. But here's the Cliff Notes. Coaching and therapy are different modalities. Right? They are different methods and different expressions used to help people change their thoughts and take new action so that they can get better results in their lives. But there are some major differences between the two, and it's important to know what those differences are. So therapy is done by licensed professionals within the context of a highly regulated industry. Coaching, on the other hand, is an unregulated industry, so there's no one governing body that approves all the coaches, and that means that there are an infinite number of coaching specialties that exist because every coach gets to decide and declare what their specialty is. That also means that every coach is ultimately the one who decides what their coaching methodology is, what they will specialize in, what kind of clients that they work with, and all of that. Those differences between coaching and therapy, it has its pros and its cons. Now, an important difference is that if you are dealing with mental illness, whether diagnosed or undiagnosed, you should be seeking treatment from a licensed mental health professional like a therapist or a counselor, and not just trying to work with a coach who may or may not be equipped to help you. And that is such an important distinction. I cannot overstress that enough. So if you suspect that you are dealing with depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, or something along those lines, working with a coach alone is not going to be sufficient. It's not going to get you where you need to go. That being said, coaching in addition to therapy, if you are struggling with mental illness, can actually get you amazing results. And I say this as a life coach who has worked with clients who are actively in therapy. In fact, some of my best clients or the ones who have gotten the best results from working with me are the ones who are already seeing a therapist. And they were seeing a therapist before they started working with me. They weren't getting where they wanted to go. And so they hired me kind of as a supplement to their mental health support system and as a different method of reaching their goals and getting what they wanted. And that works because me as a coach, I work on different things with my clients in the coaching relationship than the therapist works on with them in the therapy relationship. So in the coaching container, we have clear goals that we're working towards. And there's also this time constraint that's always there because clients sign up to work with me for 3 months or 6 months. They're not just coming to be a forever client like many people do with therapy. And so I can't speak for any other coaches, but I am definitely the kind of coach that has very clear ethics and very clear boundaries. And I don't act like I'm a therapist. I'm not trying to pretend like I'm a therapist. I'm not trying to practice therapy without a license, right? That's not what I do. If I am working with clients and they bring up something that crosses into the realm of a mental health diagnosis or a potential diagnosis, I am quick to tell my clients that they need to follow up with their therapist on a particular topic. I will even help them figure out how to bring up that topic with their therapist. I will guide them in what experiences maybe that they should share or questions that they can ask so that they get the kind of help that they need from the therapist that I am not equipped to provide. And that in turn allows me to focus on helping my clients with the things that are strongly and clearly within my wheelhouse so that my clients can get the best results from working with me. So that's a quick and dirty answer. Definitely go check out episode number 7 for a more detailed explanation, but I hope that that answer is helpful to you. Okay, the next question is coming from another anonymous listener, and this one, though, is one of my gentleman listeners. I know that most of my listeners are ladies, and I'm usually talking to you all as if my entire audience is full of ladies, but the fellas be showing me some love too, and I welcome everybody. So, yeah, okay. So this gentleman listener asked this question. Is there such a thing as an insignificant goal or a goal that's too little? Also, how often should I be setting goals? Thank you so much for this question. I'm so glad for a chance to talk about this. I feel like I don't talk enough about goals here on the podcast, even though helping my clients reach their goals is literally the most basic thing that I do as a life coach. I have done so much work with goals. I've created lots of my own unique tools and frameworks around goals and goal setting to help my clients reach their goals. And I'm talking about all different types of goals. So of course I have plenty to say about this. I don't talk about it a lot on the show. So your question, can a goal ever be too little? Well, it depends, right? And I hate giving that answer. I really do. I don't like telling y'all that it depends when y'all are looking for a clear yes or no, this or that answer. But the fact is, there is so much variation. There is so much gray area, and things are rarely one thing or another, and goals is no different. So can a goal ever be too little? Well, it depends on what you want the goal to do for you. Hear me out. A goal is not a goal is not a goal. Meaning, not all goals are created equal, and not all goals lead you to the same type of outcome. So I can't tell you if your goal is too insignificant or too small for you unless you know and are very clear on what it is that you're trying to achieve. And then we evaluate the goal based on what you're trying to do. That's the only thing that can determine whether or not the goal is too little. A small, accessible, too easy to fail kind of goal is sometimes the best way to gain momentum or to get unstuck in a particular area of your life. But if you find yourself using these tiny goals to avoid the discomfort that comes with the potential for failure, or if you find yourself hiding from your big, hairy, audacious desires and, just turning towards tiny, super easy goals instead, then that little goal might be holding you back instead of helping you move forward. As far as the second part of your question, how often should you be setting goals? Well, how often do you want to intentionally move towards success? Because that's what goals do. They help us track our progress and move towards success. So no matter what it is that you're trying to achieve, there is a way to slice it that will increase your chance of being successful. You can slice your goals into annual goals, quarterly goals, monthly, weekly, daily, etc., right? There's more than one way and more than one time frame that you can attach to your goal. If daily goals feel too intense for you, then maybe weekly goals would be better. If annual goals feel like they are too easy for you to lose track of, right? They're too forgettable for you, then maybe you might want to pare them down and try quarterly goals instead. So there's no one correct rhythm for setting goals, and there's no one right way to set them. The bottom line is that you shouldn't be trying to change yourself to work with certain types of goals. Your goals should be designed to work for you. Period. Point blank. Y'all, I'm having so much fun responding to these questions, but real talk, you probably have questions that are just too complex and too complicated for a 5-minute response on a podcast episode. What you really need is one-on-one support in an official coaching relationship with me, your favorite life coach, Coach Elizabeth. When you hire me as your coach, you get my undivided attention every week for months at a time. So there's always time to uncover and explore anything that you want to bring up and anything that comes up on its own. We'll have time to find the answers to your questions, test out different strategies, and even remix our plans when the plans don't work out the way we expect them to. And of course, we'll have time to see all of your hard work pay off. Book a free sales call with me and let's talk about how my coaching services can help you. The link is in the show notes when you're ready to try something new. Okay, back to the show. The third and final question that I'll attack today on this Ask Me Anything episode comes from one of my listeners over on Instagram, whose username I will not share in order to protect their privacy. Here is what they asked. What's your best tip for confidence? I love this question so much. And I feel like I've said that about all of these, but it's true. Okay. I love this question in part because it's short and sweet, but there are so many different directions that I can take the answer. And I love that for the podcast because I haven't really talked about confidence very much here on the show. But I have actually taken a deep dive into this concept as a coach, and I've developed some of my own concepts and philosophies around it. So let's start with a Coach Elizabeth definition, which you will find in absolutely nobody's dictionary because it's a definition that I have created in my own brain. Here we go. Confidence is the belief in the reliability or predictability of something or someone. One more time. Confidence is the belief in the reliability or predictability of something or someone. I like to approach confidence as a belief rather than approaching it just as a feeling, which is what most of us default to. And I prefer this approach because when your goal is to create more of the feeling of confidence, you can actually work your way there by building a system of confidence beliefs. So that's really my first tip, right? Because of course I have more than one tip for confidence. So tip 1 here is confidence isn't just a feeling, it's a system of beliefs that work together. And beliefs are just thoughts that we assume are true. They're thoughts that we stop questioning. They are thoughts that we accept as truth, often because we practice thinking them over and over again. So if you want to feel more confident, you can start by asking yourself this question: what can I rely on, or what can I reasonably predict that allows me to feel safe? Because at the end of the day, confidence is just a luxury brand of the feeling of safety. When you feel confident, you feel untouchable, you feel infallible, and you feel just all around certain that what you expect is what will happen. And because you know what to expect, that means you know how to show up and how to move through the world, and therefore you know how the story will end. That's confidence. That's what we mean when we say that we feel confident. We mean, I want to know that I will be okay in this situation. Well, the good news is that you can create that feeling for yourself on demand. You just need to figure out what you can rely on and what you can predict. So here's where part 2 of my best confidence tip comes in. You can get really good at creating confidence on demand when you get really good at telling the difference between the things that are in your control from the things that are not. And this is a critical skill because when a choice or an action or a situation is not up to you, it becomes less reliable, and perhaps then it becomes less predictable as well. And you know that quote, the best way to predict the future is to create it. I forget who said it, but that's the quote. Well, that quote is about confidence. It means I know what will happen because I will make it happen. But when something is not up to you, when it's not up to you to make a thing happen, your ability to predict what will happen gets a bit fuzzier. It gets a bit hazy because there are just more variables. There's more opportunities for things to go askew. When it's up to you, though, it's when something is completely within your control, you can decide how it will go. And so a big part of confidence is not needing to control everything that happens, but rather being able to identify in every circumstance of your life which part of that circumstance belongs to you. even when things feel out of your control, there is still something that you can do. And finding that opportunity, finding that thing that you can control or influence or decide, and seizing it and acting on it, and doing that consistently, that will help you cultivate a mindset of confidence within your life. And when you have a mindset of confidence, you will feel more confident more often. And I really want you to cultivate that skill set because confidence is a good look on you. All right, my good people, that's a wrap for this Ask Me Anything episode. Thank you so much for the questions, and thanks for tuning in to hear my responses as well. I will be back in your ears next week with another fresh episode that I'm sure will be really juicy. Make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss out. In the meantime, use the hours that you have in every day to create more of the life you want to live. Cultivate that confidence, set those goals, and maybe talk to a therapist or a life coach like me. All right? See you next week. Peace. Hey, thanks for tuning into this week's episode. If you have a question or a favorite insight from today's conversation, I would love to hear from you. Send me a message on social media. I'm in all the places. My handle is @lighthearted, all one word. And of course, my accounts are linked up in the show notes to make it easy for you, so holla at your girl. I'll be back in your ears next week with a fresh episode. Make sure that you are subscribed to the Life Edit Project podcast wherever you like to listen so that you don't miss a thing. Until then, peace.